It's great to be back in Buenos Aires, one of my favorite cities. And in the years since I was last here, I've made a lot of videos, including quite a popular one on sibilant sounds. So I thought I'd take advantage of this trip to Argentina and Uruguay to explore the topic some more and compare English with the fascinating way that sibilant sounds vary in the Spanish-speaking world. We're going to be exploring three aspects of sibilants, which roughly means s and sh type sounds. In my previous video, I talked about the distinctive S that can be heard in Spain. English S has to be much louder than th and considerably higher pitched than sh. This isn't the case in languages with fewer contrasts. European Spanish has th, but doesn't have a contrast between s and sh. And this allows the sound that it writes with the letter S to be somewhere between English s and sh.
Nada más en los terrenos privados y en los terrenos cerrados.
Sino el aislamiento con el que lo vivimos.
Tenemos acceso a muchas cosas, pero también perdemos muchas cosas.
Here we can see American English spectrograms.
Math, mass, mash. Math, mass, mash.
And this is a Spanish mas.
Más, más.
The Spanish sound is visibly intermediate between English s and sh.
S. Sh. S. Sh.
But here in Buenos Aires, things are very different, and I'm super lucky to have my friend and colleague Hernán Ruiz, who knows infinitely more about Spanish than I do. You're from Buenos Aires?
I'm from Buenos Aires, yes. One of the main distinctive features is pronouncing sh for the Y or double L in Spanish.
Llamar becomes...
It becomes llamar.
Tengo la camiseta de Argentina. La de las estrellitas. ¡Estrellitas! Ayer viadas.
¿A dónde?
En mi casa. Ayer viadas.
Lo que yo llamo la fórmula de la felicidad. Yo llamo, vamos construyendo la base de la gobernabilidad, construyendo.
So here there absolutely is a sh sound. It's the pronunciation of both written forms, Y and double L, which represent a single phoneme for most, though not all, Spanish speakers around the world. And this sh isn't restricted to Buenos Aires. Leo Messi is from Rosario in Santa Fe province.
Y bueno, me llamó la atención.
What exactly is Rio Platense?
Rio Platense speech is defined by a region comprising the provinces of Buenos Aires, Entre Rios, south of Santa Fe, and going south all the way to Patagonia, and basically Uruguay.
The Rio de la Plata, or River Plate, which when it reaches the Atlantic is the widest river in the world, separates Argentina over there from Uruguay, where I am right now. So the term Rio Platense Spanish refers to the language spoken on both sides. This is my first trip abroad to give talks since the pandemic, and teachers and students everywhere are kindly letting me record them.
Yo soy Virginia, soy de Montevideo, de Capital.
Yo soy Verónica, soy de Jung, en realidad Yang.
Yo soy Rosana, que vivo acá en Fray Bentos hace más de 15 años, creo ya.
Fantastic. And my travels across Argentina give me an opportunity to hear other forms of the Y-double-L sound, which may suggest the historical stages that led to the Rio Platense sh. Here I am at the center of one of the world's great wine-producing regions, the city of Mendoza, at the foot of the Andes Mountains.
In Mendoza and the region of Cuyo, you get the y more than in other parts of Argentina.
Somos acá de Mendoza. Yo soy
también de Mendoza. Es muy gracioso porque, bueno, nosotros tenemos compañeros de Buenos Aires, otras zonas de Argentina, y tipo siempre nos hacen burla por cómo pronunciamos pollo o lluvia. Pollo. Pollo.
This palatal type of sound, which is the most common type of Y-double-L in the Spanish-speaking world, often has some non-sibilant friction. Y, yo. It's also often affricated. Yo. But even here in Mendoza, sibilant friction, more like a zh, zho, can be heard creeping in.
O irte un poco más afuera como uspallata, uspallata, uspallata.
And here in Córdoba, the zh type sound predominates.
Sí, de Córdoba. No soy exactamente de la capital, pero sí vivo en Unquillo. Unquillo, Unquillo.
La Sierra de Córdoba, lo sacaría a bailar algún baile.
Carlos Paz, quizás.
Le haré comer, claro.
Has Córdoba got a good football team?
Sí, tenemos dos.
Tres.
Tres.
Cuatro.
Bueno, hay cuatro. Talleres de Córdoba. Talleres de Córdoba.
Phonetically, there's a continuum between the non-sibilant palatal place of articulation
ya, ya,
and the further forward positions, alveolo-palatal and post-alveolar, like English zh, as in measure,
ya, ya.
from which a narrow jet of air can be fired at the back of the teeth. You can check out my previous video for more on that. Zh used to predominate in Rio Platense Spanish too, and can be heard from older speakers from Buenos Aires.
Quiero que la iglesia salga a la calle. Calle.
But starting in the mid-20th century, it was devoiced to sh. And so, with the presence of these sibilant fricatives, sh or zh, the actual S sound in this part of the world naturally keeps its distance from them, and to my ear sounds much more like what I think of as a regular English S than those distinctive S's that we heard from Spain.
Cosas,
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 cosas.
pasado,
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 pasado.
Más,
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 más.
Ser, 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 ser.
siempre,
Siempre,
siempre.
siempre.
In fact, it's my impression that S in Argentina can sometimes be more dental and less sibilant than English S. In other words, shifted a bit closer to th. And of course, they don't have the th phoneme here.
Siempre nos hacen burla, siempre hacen.
Which leads on to the second topic we're exploring today, the phenomenon of pronouncing written S with no sibilants whatsoever. S reduction is a huge and fascinating topic in Spanish. It refers to S becoming aspirated, which means pronounced as an H, or weakening to nothing at all.
¿Cuántos de ustedes leen 2 minutos el Evangelio en el día? 2 minutos, ¿eh?
Now, this doesn't happen randomly to any old S sound. It turns up in what across languages are known to be classic positions for reduction or weakening, also known as lenition. Most commonly before another consonant and or at the end of a word.
2 minutos, 2 minutos, 2 minutos, 2 minutos.
In the English-speaking world, we can find many examples of consonant reduction like this. Take non-rhotic accents like mine. Compare 2 minutos with Lord's Prayer. I don't pronounce either of these written R's, the first one because it's before a consonant, and the second because it's at the end. Or think of the T sounds in
sweatshirt,
Sweatshirt.
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 You won't often hear sweatshirt. And like historic R dropping in, say, England, S reduction is absolutely the norm and completely standard in Argentina. Muchas gracias.
Muchas something gracias, like, yes, you know? Muchas gracias.
Is that only in Latin America? Is it, how does it
No, except for Mexico, north of Spain, you can get that almost anywhere. So in the Caribbean, in the south of Spain, in Cuba, in Colombia, in most of South America, really. Right.
De hecho, donde estamos se suele escuchar mucha música en el día a día o lo antes de los partidos o después de los partidos también.
Vamos construyendo la base de la gobernabilidad, vamos construyendo.
Vivo acá en Fraiventos hace más de 15 años, creo ya.
Sí, tenemos dos.
Actuaciones que son muy enteras y muy honesto. ¿Cómo se dice greed en español?
Avaricia.
En español.
Más bien es
crecí con un grupo de mujeres espectacular, espectacular. Mujeres latinas, mujeres de la costa de Colombia, mujeres latinas.
Somos nosotros mismos. Somos nosotros mismos. Porque si las cosas no salen bien, no solamente piensas en la técnica,
No debería existir la pregunta nunca. Existir. Hay momentos específicos para ver una película. Específicos.
Y actrices porque hay un mundo fantástico. Fantástico.
Pues se creó desde el principio, desde lo que estaba escrito en la página. Yo vi muchas posibilidades. No lo he visto.
To end, let's look at the third fascinating sibilant feature in this part of the world. I'm in Tucumán in the northwest of Argentina, and it was here in 1816, in this house, that the Congress of Tucumán declared the independence of Argentina, or to be more precise, the independence of las Provincias Unidas del Río de la Plata. Some might say that the most Spanish sound in Spanish is its trill, as in rojo and tierra and arriba. It's the bane of all those English-speaking learners of Spanish who struggle to produce it, and I've always found it a very difficult sound to teach. But here in Tucumán, I hear trills much, much less, because instead you get a sound with friction that for some speakers is a full-blown sibilant fricative.
The trill R gets pronounced a little bit like J. We call it R asibilada. It can be a retroflex arriba, instead of arriba.
La doble R también a veces. No decimos, claro, no decimos perro, decimos perro.
Sigan recibiendo reconocimiento.
A representar lo que fue el concurso, a representar.
Now, to bring the video full circle, these sibilant R's can be strikingly reminiscent of the S's we heard at the start of the video from speakers in Spain.
A representar.
Acceso a muchas cosas.
A representar.
Acceso a muchas cosas.
What you just heard there was really a Tucumán R swapped with an S from Spain.
A representar.
Acceso a muchas cosas.
A representar.
Acceso a muchas cosas.
If we put them back where they belong, the difference isn't that big.
A representar.
Acceso a muchas cosas.
A representar.
Acceso a muchas cosas.
So this means that the Spanish in this region can have not one, not two, but three sibilants, S plus sibilant YLL and sibilant R. That makes two kinds of sh sound, like in Chinese or Polish. One of them more retroflex, curling the tongue, more like sh, and the other more palatal, more like sh. This word, which means skunk, at least in some regions, will be pronounced by most people in Spain with no sibilants.
Zorrillo. Zorrillo.
But by some speakers in Tucumán with three.
Zorrillo. Zorrillo.
And yes, I guess that's an example of a language variety allowing two sounds to become more like each other rather than increasing the difference. So if you're a learner or user of Spanish who struggles with the trill, what do you think about using one of these Latin American alternatives? Let me know what you think in the comments. I must say the Tucumán R can sound very beautiful.
Que vuelve de la guerra.